everyone, Lou here. Now, this is a real spur-of-the-moment kind of video because, Season 2 of Castlevania released just recently, which means I finally get to talk about how amazing it is now that I don't have only 4 episodes to work with. Now, vampires have always been my favorite piece of fictional monster to read about or watch in movies. True Blood, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Interview with a Vampire, and yes, even Twilight to some extent are all some of my favorite things to watch or read. I mean, granted, Twilight is more of a guilty pleasure now that I'm an adult who realizes Edward is fucking creepy and Jacob is the nice guy who only traded his Rainbow Dash fedora for a motherfucking six-pack. Anyway, I have never in my life played a Castlevania game, unfortunately. It's way before my time and experience with gaming. However, I do really want to play Symphony of the Night, and Alucard is my husbando thanks to the wiki and Castlevania fans explaining stuff to me. And with that being said, this review is coming from someone who only knows the basic story for these games and prefers the lore and story for vampires over anything else. Not to mention, I mean, it's an NES game. How much could they really cut from it? If anything, I would imagine they'd have to add on rather than take away. Let's get our fangs and dive into the spooky world of vampires and revenge to see that Castlevania is the best video game adaptation to date. I'm not going to spoil something in my life because I have a bad habit of doing that, you know? So, Dracula meets a nice lady who wants to be a doctor and is pretty amazingly sassy about wanting to learn. That, and he's interested in a human about wanting to learn how to not fucking die for a change. I would like to say that this brief dialogue between Dracula and this lady, later known as Lisa, already sets the tone for some of the clever banter and humor in the series. I'm a really big fan of sassy friendships used for comedy purposes, so this is already a really great start.
What was first? Bloodletting?
God, you still think you're funny.
Although it is fast-paced, we are explained that this woman soon married Dracula, but was burned at the stake by the Holy Church for accusations of witchcraft. Unfortunately, a very real thing in our own real-world history, which adds to a lot of the intrigue. Anyway, like any good spouse in general would do if they found out their significant others burnt at the stake for ignorance, Dracula vows to kill all of humanity in 1 year. Now, he says he gives humanity a year so he can gather up an army and for them to make peace, but what I think he was also giving them a year for was to redeem themselves, but given it's taken us over half a century to learn that animation isn't just for children, well, I'd say humanity is fucked. Dracula then unleashes his army of demons, or whatever they are, and begins his terror in killing all the humans. Slowly. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Dracula, my buddy. If you want to kill all the humans, just cause a black plague. I mean, who's gonna win? A bunch of dorks in the 1400s or one dirty boy? Well, because Dracula's out slowly killing everyone, the Belmonts kind of failed at their job. To be quick about it, the Belmonts are essentially just a family version of Van Helsing from Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I kind of wonder if he's in this universe. Anyway, Trevor Belmont is the current head-ish of the Belmont clan and is just... I'll discuss him in a second, but he's already quite the charmer. The Belmonts are presumed to be all deceased at this point, but circumstances lead him to find a lost magical lady. The magic lady is Sypha, and the two look for the legend of a sleeping knight or something underneath the city, and this boy is Alucard, and he's Dracula's son. What the hell do you expect? His name is Dracula spelled backwards. Anyway, Alucard already shows he's best boy and announces his father's fucking crazy, so the three of them set out to kill Dracula. That's all I'm saying, cause well, the rest is complicated, but really interesting. Just the story here is truly incredible and very entertaining. There is some light comedy, but it's well timed and brilliantly executed. I mean, to put in some light negativity, I would say that the pacing to Dracula's Reign of Terror is a bit fast, since we don't know fully the true extent of Lisa and Dracula's relationship. However, their first conversation builds enough chemistry that I think you can tell they would have a thing for each other regardless. Even if it is fast-paced at some times and slow-paced in the others, I think this series was genius in story. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to say anything about what the scene is, but the final scene in Castlevania was truly moving. It was depressing, but the emotions behind it were so raw that I legit found myself very emotional by the end of it. The art art style here is honestly absolutely incredible. Normally, if I saw a show with this kind of art style, I would get Berserk 2016 flashbacks and think they would have to have this all be CGI to emulate this, but nope, this is all 2D and very well executed. Fight scenes are genuinely exciting and wonderfully animated, with the gore being absolutely fantastic. I haven't seen fight scenes animated so smoothly in American animation, well, ever really. I'm a big believer normally in gore being used for plot or to emulate something, but here the gore is just pure enjoyment, okay? It's like watching a really gory horror movie, it's just so good. Also, hello sexy vampire Alucard! Oh boy, did they animate you so beautifully, boy! Overall, the animation was just incredible and had major consistency in style, frames, and coloring. There are fight scenes in this show that are brilliantly shot and animated that I was blown away by how well executed it was. You can definitely tell Netflix really handed the studio a lot of money to get this right. Trevor. Oh, my drunkard hot mess of a lead character. He's sassy, grumpy, and is pretty much any brooding video game lead fantasy story like Geralt or something. I would also like to point out that Thorin Oakenshield, his voice actor, did an amazing job as well. Trevor is just a fantastic character and I love him. Also, I'm depressed he's not in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Sypha. She's just like really awesome, to be honest. I'm a big fan of mages with either fire or ice power, so she's just super cool. I like how she contrasts to Trevor's entire hot mess of a personality, as well as her being innocent and optimistic for the most part. She's also incredibly sweet, and I love her entire personality and design. Alucard. My boy! Okay, in all honesty, Alucard steals the show for me every time. Not only does he seem to have a complex emotional issue with his father, he is the most famous vampire in history, but also has to deal with the loss of his mother. You really feel this sadness for him because I can't imagine having one parent die and the other go completely insane to the point where you have to kill him, you know? Dracula. He's pretty much every amazing interpretation of Dracula all compiled into one vampire being thing. He's just really cool and very entertaining to watch. I did notice as I was watching that he did seem heavily inspired from Bram Stoker's Dracula. However, I know that the creator of Castlevania was heavily inspired by that movie later on in the series, so it's understandable. Hector. This guy is a necromancer, and what does he do? He brings back dogs and cats from the dead. If that's not the most realistic depiction of a necromancer, then I don't know what is. There are other characters, but they're still involved in heavy spoilers, so I'm keeping hush about them. Just know the other ones are absolutely fascinating to see on screen. Okay, even if I've never played a Castlevania game and my thirst for Alucard holds no bounds, this is still a kick-ass TV series. Let's be honest, how many either TV series or movies based on any video game can you say is entertaining on its own? Not many, that's for sure. Like, we've had decades of disrespectful, shitty, or poorly made adaptations of some of our favorite video games. The closest I ever got to any series or movie based on a video game I love was maybe the Silent Hill movie, the first one, and that's simply because they used the damn game soundtrack as the movie's soundtrack, and some shots were well executed, but other than that it was shit too. And by the first picture of the live-action Witcher adaptation, it doesn't look like that trend of shitty video game movies is gonna stop either. As I said earlier, I hardly knew anything about the Castlevania series prior to the show, other than seeing Alucard's design sometimes when discussing vampires with other people I know. And now I find myself as a huge fan of the series, and now I'm legitimately hyped to see Simon and Richter as fighters in Smash Bros. Ultimate and Alucard as an assist trophy. Even if you've never heard of the series in your life, I highly recommend checking out this series. Unfortunately, it is a Netflix exclusive, but hey, you can just borrow your friend's laptop or tablet for a couple of days to binge watch it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to let me know down below what kind of video you'd like to see me talk about next. And if you'd like to help support this channel in any way, then feel free to check out my Ko-fi page in the description down below. See you next time!